I cannot believe it's been 2 years since we have started the Total Education Hour, now syndicated all over the world. Go to the website, totaltutor.org. Happy anniversary. You know, we need to have a song or something. I know we're going to have some great break songs that I sent to my producer, Chris, and I had to remind him about that. But go to the website, totaltutor.org, to find out more information on the Total Education Network, now syndicated on 47 stations. And also, I own a Birth Through College tutoring and consulting company. Just really excited. It's just been a situation where I guess it's becoming more second nature. Was in Miami and interviewed 30 people in 2 days. So 6 people in an hour and a half. That's not a problem at all. But I first want to welcome, I guess the studio is a little larger. We have the television crew in, and then also we have my co-hosts. I want to welcome back Darcy, my educational expert. Darcy, thanks for coming to the studio.
Always a pleasure, Neil.
And then also the great former co-host of Thursday nights on the Total Education Network, Adam, the former teacher. Adam, always very interesting things to say, and especially when we get to the backup topics.
I can say we always have a good time.
Always a good time, and really, so you can also email me at nhaley@totaltutor.org for more information. First topic I wanted to get to today that I think it's just really absolutely is something that's been in the news, but I want to hear your take on this. A 200-pound Ohio third grader was put into foster care. Now, I'm going to give you this point of view on this situation. If we continue to do this, and I want to hear your response on this, if we continue to allow the government or allow certain agencies to choose when and when not to pull kids, we pretty much will have most kids in foster care because you have situations where they're being abused. You have situations where maybe the father's an alcoholic or the mother's an alcoholic or they're a drug addict, or a situation where they're not going to school enough, so we're going to pull them to foster care. So the situation is, when is a good time to do this? And Adam, do you think this was a good time to do this with the Ohio third grader?
Well, thankfully, this time I actually had a chance to research this before just being put on the spot. Well, they already tried speaking with the parents. They had an intervention come in, and they tried to educate them on nutrition, different things to try to go to, hey, let's stop because it's over in our native Ohio with our Ohioan friends over there. And there was no progress at all, and he continued to be at such a rate that he has sleep apnea and other health things. So they ended up having to step in because it was a danger to himself health-wise, and there was no action taken after multiple steps.
But if we run into this situation, can't we just kind of say for anything? I mean, there are some overweight children walking around, Darcy. So how can we define a situation where when the government should intervene or not? Because in a situation, what if the whole family's obese? I mean, you see these stories all the time on different stories about these, I guess, extreme makeovers.
You know, this is a different situation. This is where the child is morbidly obese. This is to the point that this child is going to die. I mean, I see what you're saying about, there is a line, and I totally agree. There is definitely a line. But the line in this case has totally been passed. This is one of those cases where the child's long-term and short-term health is in danger, and if the parents aren't responsible enough to see what they are doing to their child, I think that we have every right to have someone step in and take the child away.
So how many are out there in that situation that are in this predicament? I mean,
probably too many.
It's probably too many. It was just finally a decision that was made that sometimes I just don't know. I kind of bringing this point up because if we have all these kids in foster care, if we have all these children in foster care, maybe we need to really start to educate parents more to be parenting. I mean, saying, you shouldn't read the parenting books. Just go with the flow, But do we know the parents? Do we know if they're obese, Adam? Because, again, I just bring up these topics.
We do know that the mom is actually a substitute teacher, which is really puts a different spin on things. But it's just, it's very weird for an 8-year-old. I mean, 8 is third grade, I think, 8 or 9, being 200 pounds. I mean, that's just, there's so many different things that come into play for that. I mean, if you don't change things, then there's not going to be anything to do in the long term because there's too many short-term effects that may go off.
Right.
We don't know a lot about the parents, but we do know that if they're a substitute teacher, meaning they're in charge of other people's children, you would hope they would be educated on what they should be doing, but yet are still not.
Hmm.
I so I guess I'm kind of alone in this situation to say when to do this. And I think that it's a situation then we're going to start going into even different situations. Obesity, let's talk about situations where what is considered the time to intervene. If we're running into this situation, like I said, all of these kids out there that are being treated horribly, having a situation where they're not being in the best environment, we have to work on education. We have to work on educating parents, healthiness, all those different things. And I think that that's such an important thing. But I'm really excited that Jan is calling in from Kids Be Kids. Jan, thanks for calling the program. It's fantastic. Really, our topic today is use art to make a difference. And I know for a fact, Jan, that again, art is something that we're really missing out a lot in schools. We're talking about a lot now in the news about how they're cutting art programs all over the country. That's just terrible, isn't it? And so, how did you and your co-founder come together for Kids Be Kids? Oh, wow. Well, I think that anytime you involve art in something, and really creativity is what makes our country different than other countries all over the world. The ability for us to be creative in things and be able to come up with ideas only in America of coming up with these things. And if we have a situation like I was reading some stuff on the multiple intelligences, and we're seeing a lot of times that we're not teaching these things. We're getting rid of them. And I know that Darcy has a question, but we're just getting rid of programs to so kids can be creative, and it's terrible.
Hmm.
Wow. That's great.
Hmm.
That definitely is.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Jan, I really hope you could tell us a little bit about how we can get involved as, parents, teachers, and just the general population.
See, I like the difference of this, Jen, than other programs because a lot of the programs are just raising money for art programs across the country in districts. You're doing something that's really helping people that are truly in need, people that are suffering from cancer. This is, I mean, it's something, and it's really a sad thing. And I didn't kind of just bring up one of my co-hosts that I had on the program. One of my new teachers was diagnosed with cancer. We have to keep really think of him in our prayers and thoughts. And it's just shocking how these things happen. You're floored when you hear these things. That's great. Well, I mean, what you're able to do, Jan, is fantastic. And another situation, one of our students at the school I used to teach at was diagnosed with leukemia. So it's terrible. I've been hearing this all the time. People that, but at least you're out there trying to make a difference and help people. And I know that parents out there love to have artwork of their kids. It's something that we all know, my children, and anytime we have that opportunity. So where, again, can we find more information on you? Well, Jan, thanks again for calling the program, and good luck on your organization. It's doing tremendous things. Thanks again for calling. All right. All right, take care. You're listening to Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.
There comes a time in life when you need government information.
And you just don't know which way to turn.
Well, there's a place you can go to put an end to your frustration.
It's a site that everyone should learn.
USA.gov.
Find your Social Security benefits online. USA.gov.
Our list of jobs will put you on cloud nine.
USA.gov. Shop auctions for a used minivan anytime. USA.gov.
You can apply for a student loan.
USA.gov.
Get energy saving tips for your home.
USA.gov.
So great you might just get carpal tunnel syndrome.
It's government made easy.
For the people, USA.gov. For the people, USA.gov.
Everyone is a story. Everyone. He passed away last year. It was hard at first when I found out how sick he was. The doctor suggested hospice care at home. He came home, and that was wonderful. And the hospice helped a great deal. They were there whenever we needed them. They helped me take care of him. I didn't know. I didn't know where to start, what to do, what his needs were going to be. As the illness got worse and worse, they were there with help and suggestions and just how to do it, how to cope with it. They made his last months comfortable, pain-free, which was a blessing. We were able to find some joy till the very end.
Talk to him. I would.
All you
We're back to the Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and really, so far, interesting. More guests to come, and just making sure to check to my producer. Do I have my next caller on the line? Oh, I'm really honored to have on the program Carmen Perez. Carmen, thanks for calling the program.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for having me.
And Carmen, again, all the different movies you're involved with, your art, your music, it's fantastic. But when you started out, it was a different story. When you have a different story, definitely how you made it. You were in the military, is that correct?
Yeah. I was in the Army for 6 years, and I joined when I was 17.
And when you were in the Army, then you finally decided, hey, I'm going to go back to school before you even finished your service, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually went to school at night pretty much full time. The whole 6 years I was in, I would be working, and most of the time, like pretty much most of the 6 years, I was going to school at night. And I had almost a bachelor's degree at that point.
Wow. And that's what our topic is today, is how to juggle college and a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. And Carmen, especially, I guess, being in the military, that's even more of a challenge. How did you stay so organized to be able to do that?
I think the military helps, you know.
Yeah.
I did finance for the Army, so I had to be organized, you know, with money, with numbers, with, you know, so I think it did help me that I was in the military and doing the job that I was doing. But I always wanted more. I always felt like education is, you know, is what I wanted at the time.
And that's such an important thing, the one education, and to be able to, because you never know with your background if you wouldn't have made it. And now having that education is a very important thing.
Yeah, Carmen,
exactly.
So, Carmen,
hi, sorry.
Hi, that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to ask you, what do you think was your biggest challenge in trying to juggle everything that was going on for you while you were in school?
It's really timing, you know. There were some days where I really just couldn't study, mm-hmm. and I think, you know, it depends on the person, but I think, you know, some people can study and work and have still great grades. Mm-hmm. My grades were just like B's, and, you know, I didn't have straight A's or anything like that, and it was a lot of work. It was literally working all day, go to school at night, studying on the weekends, studying sometimes at night, and yeah, it's just you just have to time things right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definite. And timing and studying. One of the things I've noticed with working with college kids is how they stay organized. Mm-hmm. Especially maybe they have a work-study job now, Carmen. It's not the days where, okay, I'm just going to school and I can party and go to school. Or I can just, there's lots of other things that they have to do, either extracurricular activities, all the things of getting involved. Being organized and studying hard is very, very important. And you're going to go through these times when you really feel like you've hit rock bottom. Isn't that correct? Especially times when the finals come up or a big paper or something like that. Isn't that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know, especially sometimes it's right before the holidays and you have to deal with certain things and you don't have time to, you know, send your presents. When I was stationed overseas, that would come up, you know. I didn't have time to send anything, but, you know, it's just, you just deal with it.
And you have to deal with it. And the only way to be able to do it is saying, I have a goal in mind. I have to set a goal, and if I don't will it, it won't happen. And I had a guest on last night on my program that talked about before you attain anything, you better set a goal and expect that you're going to do it. Because if you don't, Carmen, then you pretty much have already failed. Isn't that correct?
Well, you know, it's true to a certain degree, in my opinion. I feel like goals can change while you're on that journey, trying to get to your goal. So the goal can change, you know. It could be, you know, I didn't know I was going to end up in arts. You know, I was going to school thinking, you know, I'm going to pursue politics, you know, stay within that government, you know, working for the government. And, you know, I ended up, now I'm an artist. So, it's, you know, it's just funny how goals change and life works out that way.
But setting that goal, to say you're going to attain it, then you reach that highest potential, then you see that you want to make changes. And I know Adam has a question.
Well, no, I just.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
All right.
did I miss that?
No problem at all. Okay. Yeah, no, I was just going to say it's always great to be able to also point out that you were going to school for politics and you had a change that made you become just the successful actress that you are. But being able to understand when you go to college, sometimes things are going to take a different turn. How were you able just to let, you were focused on one thing, you had a goal, we were going to the politics, and then, acting came into play. How did you, accept that change to realize, hey, this might be worth doing?
It's one of those things. I decided to take this little out of curiosity. I had no idea I was going to love it that much, but I took a little acting workshop one weekend while I was still going to school, and that weekend I had free time, and it was like close to graduation, but for some reason I just had to do this workshop, and I did it one weekend, and I realized, wow, if I don't try this in my lifetime, I think I will not ever be 100% happy. It's really weird, but I decided I had to finish school, and luckily I was about to graduate already, so I finished. I finished that goal, and then I decided, well, I guess not. I'm not getting into politics, and moved to LA, and now then, with a very specific goal of making it.
And what you see, Carmen, is that basically, like I said, life takes us in these challenges and travels. I didn't expect back in the day, I didn't ever told you my background, Carmen. I was a professional wrestler and then decided to go become a teacher. Never thought I'd go back into the entertainment world again and being a talk show host. And I missed the whole thing because of the limelight of being a semi-star in pro wrestling to going back in this. You just never know what direction you're going to go at. So you have to go 110% in whatever goal you set for yourself, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Carmen, I want to ask you, so you started off in politics and going to school to do that. How did you break the news to your parents that you were going to go into acting, and how did they react?
That's actually funny because I think I'm a little bit of the one person in my family that just does things, and I just decided, and I tell my family after I've decided it. So, and I did that when I decided to join the Army. I had already been into the Army recruiting office and already had taken the test or the pre-test. And then when I decided to become an actress, it was I took the workshop and I started researching, and I didn't even tell them until I had made that decision, and I was moving in like 3 weeks. So they're always, I think they might think I'm a little crazy. But, it's, I'm an artist, so you have to be a little crazy, I guess, right?
Of course.
Oh, yes, definitely.
That's fantastic.
Definitely anyone in the entertainment field at one point has to have a little bit of different ideas of things. Because, again, we're not, I guess, cut from the same cloth in ways. I already know that. And putting myself in my career as a professional wrestler and saying, well, I'm just going to go be just a teacher. We are performers in lots of ways, but it's just amazing to get back in front of the mic and get back in front of performing. It's something that
feel really good, huh?
Yeah, so it feels good. It does. And someday if I get paid for it, that'll even be better. So what would you say, what advice would you offer people, especially in college, if they decide they're going to make a change, a major change, like in their major, their thought of their career? What advice would you offer people, young people that are deciding to do this?
I think when you're making a big decision, it has to really taking logic out of it, because, we tend to go to security, like job security and all that. Taking that all out and just really go dig deep inside as a person, and see what you really love and what you really want to do with your life. What will make you happy in the long run? And I think that's important, because I think that's why I changed my mind so much, because I didn't know what I wanted. And when I found it, I really cannot ever see myself not being an artist ever. And I think it's all about following your heart and really trying to pursue it. And it's scary, Sometimes you're going to think, oh, wow, this is like you're going to Hollywood and you don't know anybody. You're going to drive across country. And whatever decision it is, they're all going to be pretty big decisions.
Right.
If it's something totally different. And just follow your gut and your heart and do it because you love it, because if not, it's going to be a tough ride, I think.
Oh, definitely. And you have to go for it, and you're going to have these setbacks and things like that. And very interesting, I guess, in your career, Carmen, that you were in movies, but also you're an actress, but also an artist and a musician. That's really talent. And then going into the military, you have a very, very interesting life you've led so far.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And so where can we find more information on you, Carmen? I really appreciate you coming on the program, telling us and really how to stay organized, to really set your goals and dreams in school. And you never know where you're going to end up and how things might change sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I have a website. I have a few websites. I have some music and a little bit of my acting stuff on CarmenPerez.net.
Okay.
And I have you can see my artwork. I also started painting about 2 years ago, and that website is CarmenPerezArts.com. And I have about 40 paintings. On the website, I only have about 5. So, but yeah, and check them out and follow your dreams.
Well, I really appreciate you calling the program, Carmen, and we'll be in touch to try to set up something to come back again to talk about what's going on with everything in your life, okay?
Yeah, and thank you for having me. You were great, and this was really fun.
All right, take care, Carmen.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Carmen Perez, movie star of Barbershop, The Rig, Nip Tuck. Amazing the kind of guests we're getting on the program, and to see that everyone starts at a certain part in their lives, and you just never know where you're going to go, but if you have passion in what you do and do the best job possible, you'll obtain your goals. You're listening to Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Delhi is a mad, chaotic place at first glance, but there is a method to the madness somewhere. I've lived in Delhi all my life, and I have seen the weather change. The monsoon this year has been more erratic than I can ever remember. It's at least a month and a half late. We've had, I think, highest temperature in the last 50 years. Growing up, you'd wait for a squall. It was short, it was intense, but it used to come nearly every evening, sometime in the beginning of the summer. This year, there's not a drop. Climate change is something that affects everyone. It's not class-specific or society-specific. Some estimates say 2017 Delhi, 15 million people are going to be without water. It's quite scary living in Delhi and knowing that.
This sector's clear, Captain.
Seems that way. But they're here.
We have an intruder. 30 meters. 20 meters. 12. 8. 5.
I thought you guys were cleaning out here.
Oh, we are. We're sweeping.
Yeah, for space aliens.
Yeah, for space aliens.
Well, good luck with that.
Imagine what a little time can do for your family.
I think our work is done.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We're back to the Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and that was Carmen Perez and the 1-year anniversary show. I mean, 2 years. I can't believe I was saying 1 year. What's amazing about this whole thing is if you would have told me I would have had celebrities on the show, awesome authors, all these different things. We started, and Darcy would even attest to this, when we started, it was just a couple people coming into a studio in the snowy days, and look where we're at now. It's amazing.
It's all bright and amazing.
Yes, look at the
bright lights of Hollywood.
Look how they set up our studio for us. This is fantastic. Have all these different people helping us out. But I want to welcome to the program in a second. It's going to be a very, very interesting guest. All the different guests we've had so far. Now, what is your thought, Adam, about making a career change? Is that something that you think might be possibly a certain risk? Because a lot of times what Carmen Perez was able to do, some people fall flat on their face, and it's not always the same situation.
Well, it's always a risk because I've done a very similar thing. Well, except I was not successful. I was going into teaching, and I realized that I hated it. So I did a career change, and I actually went into the social sciences because it's one of the few things I'm passionate about. And that was back in 2007, and I have not got a relevant job to my passion since then. But I make a living, and I still enjoy what I do. So, I mean, there's always a risk involved. There's a lot of times where there's something you're really passionate about where there is absolutely no job market for. But you got to just keep on going and see if you can find out something that works with you. I mean, it's not always going to be instantaneous success.
No, it's not. And it's again, it's a battle. We have these situations where we think, okay, now we're finally here. We're on that inclined plane. But a lot of times that inclined plane takes a big nosedive, and then we have to say, okay, we have to recheck ourselves. And that's the fun thing about education is we always learn by being educated by other people and learning from other people's examples and things like that. Well, someone here that I think that is really someone that can help us on our career path in life and different things is Dr. Nate. Dr. Nate, thanks for calling the program. Are you on the line? Hello? We thought so, but I guess we don't. Well, we'll have to check the different things. But Adam, again, we're going to go, I guess, to that next topic we're going to talk about. This one's funny. This is, again, a lighthearted, funny situation. An Illinois teacher suspended for showing The Daily Show in class. When I heard this one, I literally could not believe it. What is your thought on that one, Darcy?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like, why? First of all, why are you suspended? What is it that we showed exactly from The Daily Show that was so offensive? And why is it that we can't bring something that these kids are seeing on their own anyways into the classroom? We just need to, I don't know, it's that acceptance of understanding that these children make choices on their own anyways that they're going to be exposed to. Why not bring it into an educational light where we can at least discuss it instead of leaving them to their own accord so they have to make assumptions?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but I still think that maybe this is not the forum to show something like that. Adam, what's your thought?
Well, I think it's one of the things that was a history teacher that was going ahead and putting it in there. Mm-hmm. And I think if we were especially doing civics or let's say doing navigating contemporary societies, mm-hmm. which I remember was the name of our high school history course, it makes sense, especially since if it's something that's going to be on TV, it's going to be censored enough so that I don't know why that person was going to be suspended. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of times where there's some things that are worthwhile showing. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the biggest things that made me decide that I want to get involved in teaching was watching World War II propaganda right next to post-World War II propaganda, where the first one gave us how the Russians were hardworking, great people, and the one directly afterwards was how much they were, horrible communists that just aren't people, and just how that changed. It really opened up a lot of perspectives for me.
Right.
So I don't see why The Daily Show would be, something different there. Mm-hmm. Would they be suspended if they showed a different news category? I don't know. Like if we put on CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, would that be just a thing, or is it just that, yep, Daily Show, I'm sorry, we're out. No, that worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why are we so afraid of controversy in the classroom? Isn't this the perfect place to have something like this? Isn't this the perfect time to be discussing something with the students that so many people do have problems with? It's an educational area where we can bring the students in, we can control basically what it is that they're watching. Why not bring in something that has caused controversy?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That basically the situation that
Neil
we
is
have
texting during class.
I'm definitely texting during class, but I'm basically holding up for some producer to show what's going on in the whole process. But basically, what's happening is that what's going on in the situation is that you have to do something where you have to have permission. You're going to go show The Daily Show, guys. Mm-hmm. Then you got to get permission. I mean, there's so many different things with red tape and different circumstances and situations. So you think that maybe that was the wrong thing for the teacher to do? Say, okay, I'm going to show The Daily Show, but not get permission to do it?
That depends on who you have to ask permission from. I mean, if you know that no matter what, you're going to be defeated because the person you have to request this permission from is just, a naysayer when it comes to everything, then I applaud the teacher for having the guts to bring in something that otherwise the students would be denied.
Right, exactly. And the situations, I understand what you're saying, but we'll just go ahead and continue with what we're talking about right now with The Daily Show. Now, I mean, the thing is, Adam, so you guys think that we could be rebellious, but isn't it important for what if the principal believes that this is not the right situation, or let's say the assistant principal, or the parents? Is it our right, especially in public education, to do something like this?
It would be if, what were they showing on The Daily Show that would cause the suspension? That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of things that we don't exactly cover because we cannot, just because it's not covered. But from what they were going over, I don't see anything that would be all that controversial. I understand that we had constant, this is another reason why I will probably never go back to education. Things are more and more controlled. Like, let's say I know that in this district and some districts on the West Coast, you're not allowed to teach Japanese internment anymore. Even though it's a part of history, it's not really that controversial, you're not allowed to do it. There's a lot of things that I think there's no reason for it to be not counted, but it will be. And that if you're suspended for that by a principal or assistant principal, that principal or assistant principal clearly doesn't do anything with teaching. They're so much in a cover your own butt type of mindset that they're not worrying about teaching. They're worrying about, hey, there could be a problem. Let's nip it in the butt before there could be, even if there's any learning going on.
Right.
I mean, and we have a conversation all the time about how these tests, teaching to the test, and how like laser beam focused we are in education anymore, and how much it hurts kids. I think this would be another example. Yes, it's frivolous. I wouldn't go out and go campaign for we need the Daily Show in schools all the time. I'm just saying we need a chance for teachers to teach all the time.
Now, Darcy, you're our researcher. Now, is it what's going on basically? What grade level was this they were showing The Daily Show?
So basically, this teacher was a government and law teacher at a Central Illinois high school. And basically what he wanted to do was talk a little bit, and I quote, about the issue of health insurance discounts for exercising.
Okay. Is that in the curriculum?
Yeah, it's apparently in the curriculum. And this is something that they wanted to discuss because this is something that they're talking about in their government and law class. So they're bringing in an opinion that is, obviously a little bit different from some, but it's...
What was there, an outcry from the parents because of this?
Yes, this was an outcry from the community. The community is apparently incredibly conservative, and that's what they came out and said. I'm quoting, by the way. I'm quoting directly from a website that is interviewing some people regarding this. They said that they did not support the suspension, though, because the language and the sexual overtones that were in the show did not warrant such. However, if this is what's happening to this teacher, they're saying that he's being suspended and then reassigned to some new classes later. If the actions are still taking place, how can you say that you're not against it and you're not supporting? I'm not sure what exactly the side is supposed to be.
But see, here's the reason I'm going to give you. First of all, a lot of this union situation where you're pretty much owned when you're a public school teacher. You're owned by the community. Yes, it's completely owned. You don't have that creativity, that ability to be creative because a lot of times it's going to be just stomped on. For example, Jason, the public school guy, Jason doesn't always agree with certain methods they're making him teach. But guess what? He has to. Or they would say, goodbye, here's the door. So that's the one problem about things is why are we doing this? But if he should have been smart enough to understand you're in a conservative area, you have a good job. But I hope that if he's a government teacher, he knows his constituents, the parents of the kids he's teaching.
It's really difficult to judge that sometimes, though. I mean, honestly, I've definitely made the mistake before, too. I made the mistake of showing up at a school that I was teaching at I was dressed as a, quote, lawyer for Halloween. I thought it was funny. I had devil horns, and I was dressed as a lawyer. This offended one student.
And
one.
Based on
and they blew up
offending that one student, what happened?
What happened? Well, I was told that I was not allowed to wear my devil horns anymore, which it was Halloween. I don't really know what other day I would wear them on.
Well, Tuesday.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tuesday
See, but
is
Darcy,
Devil Horn Day.
See, you're seeing that
So-
again. This whole political correctness that we're dealing with.
Well,
is-
why is that what they picked up on, though? Because honestly, in that classroom, I showed videos done by Rihanna, Aerosmith. We discussed dark poetry. The things that we discussed in that class were far more offensive, and the parents were fine with it. They signed off on it, said it was okay. The day I dress up for Halloween, which we agreed everyone was allowed to do, that's when they get mad. There were other students in the school dressed up as things that, trust me, were far more offensive and far more scary. But the fact that I
I just think this teacher maybe thought, and maybe the union didn't back him, which is very surprising that this has not gone through and it probably will go through.
I'm sure.
And he's probly getting paid now, sitting at home saying, "Oh, sure, I'll take
He's
that."
probably listening right now.
Oh yeah, if he is, especially.
Please call
where
me.
is this, near Chicago? We're on a
Cleveland.
Chicago
It's near Cleveland.
station.
Illinois.
Illinois.
Mhm.
So
Central
I know that was the Ohio guy.
So basically,
Yeah.
no, that's an Ohio guy. We're another state away, Adam.
Yep.
And it's
I
been
was-
one of those kind of weeks, guys. And
We're just jumping everywhere.
we all know about these kind of weeks, and I guess this is the shout out to my tax group that collects my taxes. Really, ultimately, you got to give warnings every month. No, you just decide that we just assume our mortgage company is able to pay it. Just had to give you that little shout out to good old tax services out in Pittsburgh. But that's all. And we're going to take a break. And that's the kind of week it's been. You're listening to Total Education Hour on the Total Education
Hour
Network.
and a half.
We will be back in just a moment with another exciting topic, guest. I don't know, but I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm sure you are as well.
Let the rush come over me.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
This is great. Every day should be like this.
It will be when I retire in a few years. I've been planning and saving.
Did you save for me?
Well, this is unexpected.
Where'd you come from?
Out of the blue, just like an illness, an emergency, or a
That's enough, Mr. Unexpected.
savings man.
There's still time to plan. Find out how at choositosave.org with a ballpark estimate worksheet.
I will. Thanks, Savings Man.
No, thank you.
So visit choositosave.org today.
Savings Man here with a story for you about two young spenders named Tommy and Sue. Their parents let them buy whatever they chose, like video games and designer clothes. As they grew older, they spent all their pay on fancy cars, houses, 2 lattes a day. They lived in the moment, never saving a dime. When they tried to retire, they'd run out of time. Working forever is Tom and Sue's fate, so choose to save now before it's too late. Visit our website to find out more, cause a happy ending's worth saving for.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
And with 0% down, all you have to pay on this mortgage is the interest.
Now that's affordable.
Are you sure?
Savings Man.
Watch out, you two. This is not your typical mortgage guy. He's really a subprime mate. Out you go. Monkeying around with the wrong mortgage can destroy your dreams.
You're right, Savings Man.
Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. For more tips and tools, visit choositosave.org today. And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Let's live at the beach.
Let's golf every day.
How about a trip?
Season baseball tickets?
Sounds like you're planning for retirement.
Hey, savings man.
Are you saving enough?
We are, thanks to the easy ballpark estimate worksheet at choositosave.org.
Hope you're saving for health insurance.
Absolutely, because health insurance is important. Thanks, savings man.
No, thank you. So visit choositosave.org and get your ballpark estimate today.
We're back to the Total Education Hour and the Total Education Network, and I tell you right now, my producer just loves me so much, especially when we just fly by the seat of our pants, and I'll have to ask him, and this is the good thing if we do have our caller on the line. If we don't, let's continue with some more of a discussion topic, whatever is needed, and I guess I'm not getting a response. We don't. I didn't see Christina, my TV producer, was blocking it. See, this is again the Grand Central Station. I'd like to welcome to the program Jonathan Steele. Jonathan, thanks for calling the program.
Thanks, Neil.
And Jonathan, it's the funny thing, and we've talked about this before, and Adam and I talked about it, how I connect with people. You found me on LinkedIn, didn't you?
Absolutely. And
One of the big things I do is when someone friends me on LinkedIn, I say, hey, look, if there's any way I or any of my connections can help you, don't hesitate to ask. And back from you came a request, hey, Jonathan, would you like to be on my radio show?
Exactly, and that's how it works here at the Total Education Hour. We bring on very interesting people, and I was kind of doing some research on you with the whole Facebook different thing, but I wanted our topic to be, first of all, you said you were an educator, but now you're a nurse. But let's go first to your background in education.
I'm this kind of odd because I'm mostly self-taught in my educational skills, but I have taught at the community college level. And most of my teaching, though, has been done privately. So I privately tutored public speaking as well as being a public speaker. And most people don't realize this, but one of the biggest parts of being a nurse is educating people how to have the best quality of life given their circumstances.
Yes.
The reason why I got into nursing is because it was an educational job.
Okay, so this is another interesting career, Adam. Wouldn't you agree? We've been in this discussion with Carmen Perez and how Carmen became from going to be in politics to an actress, to now we're talking about something where you're in education, you're a public speaker, to a nurse. Jonathan, that's just interesting. So you basically, what made you decide to become a nurse? Like you said, education to educate people?
I got a book called What Color's Your Parachute? Actually, I got the version for pessimists called What Color's a Hole in Your Parachute?
Yep.
Nice.
And in that book, I went through the series of questions it asked, and the answer, it said the ideal job that I could do, the job that I would go to work and not have to work another day of my life because it was so much fun doing, would be that of being a nurse. And that's basically how I made the decision.
Wow. And that's very interesting. You talk about how to educate people as a nurse. In your job in nursing, how do you do that? And I guess you had that firsthand experience in public speaking of educating people. So there's a lot of one-to-one education in nursing, right? Because even with your other nurses, they're on the floor, but also people that you educate the consumer, the person who's needs to get better and has to listen to that person. Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, I even educate doctors. I've become a specialist in a couple of different areas, and have doctors come up to me and say, "Hey, I understand you're certified in this. I need you to come by our office and teach us how to do this particular modality."
All right, Darcy, do you have a question?
I do. Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up that you specialized. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about how you landed on that?
Basically, it was looking at what was needed in the market, and in my case, in the healthcare field, and then trying to fill that need. I started off there's a bunch of names for it. Johns Hopkins calls it advanced transfusion practice. Some hospitals call it bloodless medicine and surgery. Okay. But every year there was the annual shortage of blood transfusion, blood, and there was no way to solve this problem other than asking for more people to give blood. And it turns out there's a whole modality of treating patients without blood that had better outcomes than giving blood. So that's how I started off. As a result of learning that, much of what we did in the hospital was considered holistic medicine, and so I've actually switched my career over to becoming a holistic nurse.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, John, I'm a huge fan of nursing in general. It's something that actually everybody in my family does, except for me. I tried, and I can't make the cut. I did nursing assisting and those type of things. I worked in the hospital for a couple of years. But really, nurses do a lot more than people give them credit for. I mean, they're really they not only do they take care of patients, they're also a translator between the doctors and the patients, because a lot of times there's not. Doctors are great, but a lot of times they really just have a hard time being on the same level as some of their patients. How do you become that translator for them? Because I could do it here and there, but it's very difficult to do.
I think it comes down to a simple word phrase called fellow feeling. Okay. I know what it feels like to be the person in the bed. I've never been sick myself, but I know what it feels like to be the patient. I know what it feels like to be a person. And the doctor, believe it or not, most people don't realize doctors only have a couple of minutes for actual face-to-face time with the patient.
Right, that's true.
And they have 15 minutes worth of paperwork to do for that patient. I have more time to spend with the patient, so that allows me that time to get to know them and connect with them. A funny little story real quick. I walked in my lab coat to a patient's room. The doctor walked in ahead of me with the street clothes. The patient looks at me and says, "Are you my doctor?" The doctor looked at the patient and says, "No, I'm the doctor. He's your nurse. He's the one that keeps you alive."
And that's so true. It really
It happened down in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a little bit down the ways, but I know what you're talking about.
We hear so many funny stories and also sad and heartwarming stories about nursing because you deal with all different situations, the ups and downs. I interviewed this one nurse out of Oregon, and he had such tremendous stories. I think that what you do is so important in this education process because the first question you receive is, what's wrong with me? That's the question. Or how can you help me? And you're there. So give me some a nice story of how you've helped someone.
There was one of the specialties I had was bariatric nursing, and through the years I've done high-tech pediatrics, bariatrics, and this one patient was. Actually, let me switch to even better one.
Okay.
When I was doing ortho med surg or orthopedics or the bone doctor nursing for people who had broken bones, the patient called me into a room. She says, I'm dying. I'm in there's so much pain I can't stand it. I'm dying. I said, I don't think so. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Let me just check you out. So I assessed her, and I says, based on your vital signs, you're not dying. However, here's what's going on. Your pain is just so bad that you just cannot manage living with it anymore. First thing let me get something, let's try something else for the pain. So we tried to get her pain under control, and I came back and explained to her how pain works. And as I was sitting there talking to her, actually educating her, in the course of doing that, I says, by the way, how does your pain feel right now? The pain medication hadn't had time to kick in yet. She said, oh, it's much better now, thank you. And I said, that's because of the power of the mind. By diverting your attention from this pain to something else, it doesn't hurt as bad. The pain med's going to kick in another 15 minutes, but in the meantime, this will help you. Changing your thoughts will help you manage the pain. Well, 6 months later, this lady came back in the hospital. She was in her late 60s. She broke her other hip. And I was working in the telemetry, or where the heart patients are. And the second half of my shift, I was getting all these calls. This lady wanted me to come up and see her. And I was just swamped, and there's just no way. So I was down at the clock, punching out, getting ready to come home. And I remembered, I punched out, I ran back upstairs, and I said, they said you wanted to see me. And she says, yes, I'm dying. This time I know I'm dying. And I said, I don't think, that's 6 months later, I don't think so, but let me check you out. I took her blood pressure, and it was 87 over what we would call palp. In other words, it just dropped off to nothing. And which is, if I had a blood pressure of in the 80s for the top number, let's say, we would be unconscious.
Yes.
But she was still conscious. And I looked at her surgery site, and there was no bleeding, nothing going on, nothing to explain the low blood count. Immediately behind me came in one of the aides, and she said, oh, good, I've been trying to get you to come up here all night long. She wanted to see you. I said, I want you to go down to the nurse's office and tell them, call a code for me. And across the bed was this woman's daughter. The daughter was crying because she didn't know what was going on, except her mom was hurting. And she was an older woman, a mother herself. She had a 16-year-old daughter. And I looked to this lady's daughter, and I says, okay, you have two choices. Either you have to get yourself under control, or you'll have to leave. If you want to control yourself and stop crying, we need to help her right now. And the best way we can help her is not to put any pressure on her. We need to strengthen her. And we're going to do that emotionally. So I looked at her and I said, the patient, I said, let me ask you a question. First, let me say, you're absolutely right. You are dying. But let me ask you a question. Do you have any reason that you need to live? Is there something you have not done yet that you need to keep doing? And she says, yes, there is. I want to see my granddaughter graduate. I said, how old's your granddaughter? She said 16. I said, so you have a few years then that you have to hang around, don't you? She says, yes. So I want you to focus on that thought and don't let go of that. Seeing yourself being there, seeing yourself see her graduate. I know sooner got finished saying that than my supervisor walked in, and he, much to my surprise, screamed out an expletive. What was I doing not only in the hospital but on this floor where I didn't belong?
Yeah.
I said the patient requested me to come up, and I complied with her request as required by the Nurse Practice Act, just to be obnoxious back to him. And he immediately, the other nurses were followed right behind him for the code, and one was on the other side of the bed, and he says, take her blood pressure. She said, I did. It's 83 over palp. Now, it had already dropped another few points from when I took it. And he said, take it again. She said, that was a second reading, and it was lower than my first reading. The supervisor immediately grabbed a bag of saline. It's 1,000 cc's. It's about the size of a soda bottle, let's say. And he plugged it into her IV and started squeezing it in because her first concern is keep her kidneys going. And he started giving commands to everyone else, and they started doing everything to get her ready to go back to surgery. Now, the irony is you never call a code on a conscious patient, but she had just minutes to live because she was. It turns out the next day the surgeon came up to me and commended me for saving her life, and what she had was it's called compartment syndrome. Her pain was because of a buildup of blood, but he was so meticulous with his sutures that it didn't bleed out. There was no sign of bleeding at the surgical site, but the pain was what told us that she was bleeding. He was able to go back in. He said evidently when they did the surgery, they must have, one of the bone fragments must have nicked one of the arteries, and he said he could see it bleeding, but it wasn't bleeding when he sewed her up. And he's a phenomenal surgeon, but things like this do happen, and it's beyond, it happens. And needless to say, a couple weeks later, I was walking to the hospital, and this woman taps on my shoulder, and I turn around, and she comes and grabs me and just hugs me for like 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And she says, thank you so much for saving my mom's life.
That's a fantastic story, and we are almost up to break. Really, 30 seconds. Where can we find more information on you, Jonathan?
I have a couple of websites, speechmastery.com, and I'm just starting a new website, callyournurse.com, where I'm going to be doing my holistic nursing.
All right.
Thank you. I love your show. It's a great show you got there.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jonathan, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Take care.
All right, take care.
Square. But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights.
What do we have here?
Oh, we're identical cousins.
But that's genetically not possible.
Oh, yes, it is. Dr. Welby told us it's quite rare, but it does happen.
Well, Dr. Welby's a great doctor, but...
You take Medicare, don't you?
Oh, sure.
And you probably have a lot of patients who are ready to go on Medicare, yes?
Yes.
You know, you could tell them that if they're 65, they can go to socialsecurity.gov and apply for Medicare online. It takes less time than sitting in a doctor's office. Sorry. It's less than 10 minutes. Sometimes 5 or 6. It's quite easy.
You're really identical? And Dr. Welby really said...
So you've got a song about where to call for government information?
Check this out. We got the benefits and services that'll make you smile to get the answers you need. Put us on speed dial.
That is gold, Your Honor.
1-800-FIT-INFO.